Why did your parents select this name for you?
You really want me to answer that?
Yes, ma'am.
Ivy cleans to the oak, so that's why I got Iva. And I don't know where the Pauline came from.
Did you have a nickname as a child?
Bean.
Bean.
Did you even know that?
When and where were you born?
In the country north of Winston, Missouri. August the 26th, 1911.
How did your family come to live in that area?
My mother's dad, the Caldwell family, was had always lived in that area. My dad came from Shelbina, and I don't know how come that he came up there. But anyway, my Aunt Nanny and Aunt Margaret, well, I guess Granny and Granddad must have moved up there too and brought the kids with them.
What was your house like there, your first house that you remember?
I can't remember where I was born at. I was born up on the old Caldwell house. It was a two-story house. But my dad bought 40 acres of ground and built a two-room house, and we lived in that.
Did it have electricity?
No,
Indoor plumbing?
no. We was country.
Were there any special things in the house that you remember real well?
Not right at first, but finally my mother got a brand new cook stove. What the heck was the name of that cook stove? Oh, I don't know, but that was a big deal.
Was it a gas stove or
No,
wood?
just a wood stove.
Wood burn?
But it, I mean, back in those days, you got something new. It was, you was proud of it.
What
Not much new.
What was your very earliest childhood memory?
I don't know. I got a pair of skates, ice skates, but nobody else had ice skates. Had to skate by myself. So that was a lot of fun. I had roller skates on the front porch. Granddad Cowell's house we lived with when I was younger. Had this big cement porch, so I could roller skate on it. I don't know.
What was your very favorite thing to do for fun? Was it the roller skates or?
Yeah, roller skate.
Did you have family chores?
Yes. You had to carry in wood. You had to carry out the ashes. And I carried in the wood, and I think they put the ashes in the bucket, and I might have carried out the bucket of ashes, but they didn't trust me to take the ashes out of the stove, because I'd have had them.
What was your least favorite chore?
Milking the old cow. I don't know. That's one thing I did every night, so morning and night.
Did you get an allowance or any kind of money as a child?
No. If we went to the store, they would usually buy candy for you along with the groceries, but there was no allowance.
What was your best subject in school, and what was school like?
Oh, the walk 3.5 miles to school. The first, let's see, I believe I was in the 4th grade maybe, or 5th. And they consolidated the school, so then we had a school wagon that came and took us 3 miles into town.
A horse-drawn wagon?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Where did you attend high school?
Winston High School. Went to Prairie Hill for
Do you remember the year?
3 or 4 years, and then they consolidated the school, and we all went to Winston.
You remember your graduation year?
Yeah. We all had typhoid fever. School was canceled, and that was it.
So you didn't have a graduation ceremony?
Oh, no.
Several
We had
in her class
two.
died.
George Taylor and who was the other one? One of the Oaks boys died. We had a family. Their name were OAKS, and mine was OAK, and nobody could understand why that I wasn't related to these people. And they were country, and
Even
I
more so
was
than her.
smart aleck.
Kind of like what you'd call rednecks around here. They were. What kind of school activities or sports did you?
I played baseball in grade school. In high school, I played basketball,
She was the captain.
baseball. Yes, I was the captain. And we won the tournament. Ready for it.
Is that a county tournament or a state
Yeah.
tournament? County.
Well, I don't know. Let me see. Where did we go to play in that tournament?
Maybe a regional?
Might have been a regional. I don't believe it was state.
In your teenage years, what were the popular fads or hairstyles or clothing styles?
I don't really know. I wore what I could get. We were a poor family.
How many dresses did you have?
I had one dress one year. Aunt Nanny made me dresses up until Christine came along. And that was my second year of high school. And the second year of high school, Aunt Nanny had quit sewing for me. And I had one dress. My mother sewed, I don't know. And that's nothing to wonder about, I guess. But anyway, I wore the elbows out. I rolled up the elbows. I was a smart, aleck kid. I must have been. That didn't faze me a bit that I had a holy elbow.
Do you remember anything about your grandparents or great grandparents?
Oh, my granddad Coel lived with us for a long time, and he'd go out and exercise on the front porch in the wintertime, and I'd skate behind him and bump into him. I wonder he hadn't ended up knocking me clear off the porch. He didn't. And then my granddad and Grandma Oak, my grandmother Coel was dead before I was born, I guess, because I remember nothing about her. But Granny and Granddad Oak lived at Shelbina, and we went to see them.
Do you
All day to get there.
you know their first names and just so we know?
Randolph and Miranda was Granny's name.
Was Oaks and the Caldwells?
Caldwell was Joseph M. Caldwell, and my grandmother was dead before I could remember. I'm probably before I was born.
Right.
I believe her name was Catherine.
And your parents' name, just to get that while we're on the subject.
Clyde, no middle name, and Mama's name was Frona. Frona, was it Edna?
Sophronia Edna.
Yeah,
And they had how many children?
me, Kathy, and all me, Sylvia, and C.W.
3 children. And you were the
I was the oldest.
oldest?
Yeah.
And CW was how much younger than you then?
Sylvia was 7 years younger than me, and C.W. was 7 years younger than Sylvia.
You can sit here.
Okay.
So I was 14 when C.W. was born.
Let's see. Did you have any childhood heroes?
And what?
Any childhood heroes? People that you really looked up to and wanted to be like?
No, I don't really think so. I was a smart aleck kid.
She thought she was the best, huh?
Did you have any pets?
Oh yeah, we always had a dog and cats.
Remember any of their names?
No.
No. What was your religion when you were growing up?
Oh, we was Baptist. We went to the Baptist church every Sunday.
Let's see. Were you ever mentioned in any newspapers as a child or teenager?
Just in the school news on the basketball team and things like that.
You made good grades?
Yeah, I made good grades. I don't know how I didn't study a whole lot.
Who were your best friends when you were growing up?
Really, my cousins, I guess. The Caldwell kids, Dorothy, Nina, and Cecil was the oldest. And then there was the cousins and the other brother was Walter and Onita and Agnes. We didn't, when we went to school, I don't know.
Just mostly family.
Just mostly family, friends, and in school.
Can you describe typical family dinner, just a regular evening?
Well, on Sunday we usually had chicken because chicken was cheap and you sold your hogs and calves to make the money. But sometimes that we would butcher a young calf, and you know, it wasn't no baby calf, but it was a grown cow, I suppose. We ate good.
So you got to have steak and stuff sometimes. And
Oh yeah.
Good stuff.
Mother canned beans and green beans and stuff from the garden. We had 800 quarts of canned goods one year. And we always, hogs were cheaper, and usually we butchered a hog and had that kind of meat. The calves would bring more.
so what kind of items did you buy from the store then?
Oh, you had to buy flour and sugar.
Did you make your own butter or did you buy that?
Oh, we made our own butter.
Made it?
Yeah. Aunt Nanny, my dad's sister, would, she had a car and she drove the car and she was a go-getter. I know the name for it. She would collect your money and go to Cameron to the A&P store, and flour there was, it was under $1 for a 24-pound bag. And she would buy, you had to get your money to her. And she would come back with flour for us and herself and Aunt Margaret.
Was she making money off of it or just doing it?
Oh
for
no,
everybody?
she
just was doing it.
brought the stuff because she was
Yeah.
gone.
That's good.
And she was, she liked to do things. She was in church and she entertained the club a lot, and I stayed all night with them several times, and she slept with me.
How far did they live from you?
Oh, about 3 miles. No, it wasn't. Let's see. That corner would have been 1 mile, 2 miles, about 3 miles. Had to turn up. They left the main road into town and went off to towards where the little old schoolhouse was, where I went first and second grade, I guess.
Do you remember how big your farm was?
We had 40 acres.
40.
We rented Granddad Coel's farm. And Woodrow, my mother's brother, decided that we had it long enough, and he got Granddad to move us out. And he took over. And I couldn't, his daughter then and her husband moved in, and I'd stop to see Granddad on the way home from school, and she'd always give me a cookie. And then somebody sold me the She made Granddad pay her 15 cents for the cookies she gave me. I don't know whether that was the truth or not. But I wouldn't have been surprised at it.
Let's see. So how did you celebrate things like Christmas at that age?
We just had a family dinner, and sometimes cousins would come in, but they put us kids to bed. And we always had the tree up, and then they
A
would
real
get
tree
the
or-
gifts out.
A real tree?
Yeah, branch up real tree. Granddad Cowell, we were living in his house at that time, and he had this big cedar tree, and it was a nice shaped tree, and Mom wanted a limb off of it for a Christmas tree. Well, he didn't want her to have it because the tree was nice shaped and it needed that limb on the bottom to make it look right, he thought. So he wouldn't let her cut it. My mother goes out and gets an old piece of old wood tree and brings
An
it in
oak
the
tree?
house. But Granddad got his saw and went out and brought in a limb of the tree. Never forget that. She knew how to work him.
What about birthdays? Did you have cake or anything like that for
Oh,
birthdays?
yeah, you always had cake. Might not have anything else, but you had
At
cake.
least had cake.
Yeah.
Do you have any special holiday traditions that you remember you used to do? That
Not anything special that I can think of. We just celebrated the holidays the best you could.
Did you get paddlings for birthdays?
Oh, yeah.
Was that a tradition
yeah.
back then?
Yeah, not hard.
But yeah.
Of course, sometimes us kids would try to give each other a birthday paddling, and things got rough then. We usually had to sit out in the chair for a while.
Well, do you remember when you first got electricity or indoor plumbing?
We got electricity when we moved to Altamont. That's after I was married.
When did you get married? What age?
Well, I was 21.
24.
24. Yeah, because Lloyd was 2 years young. I must have been 23.
And you met Grandpa Clark. How'd you meet him?
His dad moved into the community and bought a thrashing machine to thrash your oats and wheat grain. And he come out, he worked with his dad on that, he and his brother Edson. And Lloyd's dad came in and says, "Hello, my name is Clark." Lloyd said, "My name's Clark too." I thought that was really cute.
And so would you say it was love at first sight, or did you guys date for a long time? Or
We didn't, I can't remember how long after that we dated. He didn't have a car, and he lived in Altamont, which was 3 miles away. And he walked out several times and walked home. And then finally his cousin Bill Crone got a car, and Bill's girl was Mildred, and we went with them quite a bit then. And then finally we got an old truck.
you and Lloyd together, or?
Yeah. No, just Lloyd,
just your-
his dad helped him buy it.
Oh.
And then he finally went to work at the coal mine, and we had a little better going then.
He was working at a coal mine as in
When-
going underground, or?
Yeah. 100 feet down.
Hmm.
And he wasn't satisfied till he got me to the bottom of that coal mine.
He took you there before?
Went out there one Sunday. He wanted to stop and see Bert Jarrett. Jarrett was the guy that worked the lift. And he had to stay there Sunday because they didn't want anybody to, you know, do any damage. Nobody there. We went out there. I want to take this. I want to take her down to the bottom. It's a weird feeling.
This was after you were married though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, how long was it then before you guys moved to the big city, to Kansas City?
Not too long after that, Lloyd's cousin, Grant O'Connor, called him and told him UP was hiring firemen, better come. So Lloyd went down and left me sitting up in Altamont at, and I don't know how long that he worked. You wouldn't remember.
No, I don't remember.
But anyway, we stayed in Altamont till he got, I know he didn't do anything, but he got a paycheck.
So at this point, you had a child,
Yeah.
and how old was she when you moved them? About?
6.
When we moved to Kansas City, she was in second grade or third.
I was just before I went to 2nd grade.
You went to first grade at Altamont. Miss Pearl is your teacher.
Let's see. What kind of world events do you remember happening during that time?
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's been 70 years ago. 80
Did you
years
vote
ago.
for a president and that sort of thing?
Yeah. I voted for was it Kennedy?
No, not then.
Well, did you vote as far back as, say, Franklin Roosevelt? Did you vote for him, or?
You know, I don't remember. I suppose we did.
I don't even remember when women got the right to vote. I think it was like 1918
Yeah,
or
well,
something like that.
we could vote then.
You could, right?
Vote, but it was just, you know, you had lived out in the country. You didn't know any of these people. You didn't know whether it's worth anything or not.
And you couldn't see them. It wasn't like now where you have TV.
No TV to look at them at.
Right. But I'm sure World War II affected you a lot. Did
Yeah.
you have any
that's
specific memories of it?
my Uncle Elmer.
That was World War One.
He was.
Yeah, CW was in World War II.
Well, what about Uncle Elmer in World War
Uncle
I?
Elmer was in World War I, went to camp, caught influenza his first week in camp, and died.
Didn't even go to war? Mm.
And then CW was in the Second World War. We took him down and sent him off. Now write to me because I'll be lonesome. Now write to me, I'll be lonesome. So I wrote every day. I send him a letter. He finally told me, "You're just telling me the same things over and over. Don't write so often."
And he came back from war.
Yeah, keep that.
Do you talk much about it ever?
Not too much.
But we kept up our Christmas tree. He was to come home and
Yeah, we was expecting him home, but we didn't know just when he was going to get there. Anyway, we left the Christmas tree up for,
till June, I think.
I'm skipping around a little bit, but I want to go back to this. Do you remember when you were proposed to? And how that happened?
yeah. I forgot that little song.
He sang you a song?
Oh yes. Can you pass? Something blah 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 blah. I'd like to change your name.
That does sound romantic.
Oh, yes.
So, was there anything specific about your wedding day that you remember? Any memories that stand out?
Yep, we went to the courthouse. The judge married us. Marvin Manring. Was he the judge or was he the... Oh, you wouldn't know, would you?
She wasn't there.
Anyway, kid I graduated from high school with was county clerk, I guess. And boy, he was really anxious for things to go because they'd never had a wedding at the courthouse
Oh, you were the first wedding there, huh? Said that he knew about.
that he knew about. I don't know.
How would you describe your husband, and what did you most admire about him?
He had blonde curly hair. And it was curly. And he'd slop it down as tight as he could get it and put a hat on it to keep it from flying away.
Was it long?
Well, he wore a pompadour, and you know, it was...
Pretty long.
Comb straight back. There's a story. You have to interview me for a minute.
Grandma.
You have to listen to me for a minute. There's a story that Sylvia always tells. You don't have to put the camera on me. But there's a story that Sylvia always tells that Grandpa was talking to her, and she says, well, if you think I'm cute, you ought to see my... Wait till you see my sister.
That was when they was out there with
Yeah.
a thrash machine.
Yeah.
And Sylvia carried water to the...
You should have kept the camera on her because she kind of remembered it then.
Well, I was getting distracted.
Anyway, she said, if you think I'm cute, you ought to see my sister. And then Mother says that was because she carried water out to the guys at the thrashing machine.
Sylvia did, yeah.
So anyway, that was what the story was that they always told.
Yeah, I remember a little bit about somebody saying that even. What do you think the key to a successful marriage is?
Trust. Biggest thing, I guess. Trust and love. Who knows?
Well, you must know. How did you find out you were going to be a parent? So you got sick and you just knew it was coming, huh?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Why did you choose your child's name?
Oh. I'd always liked Patricia, and I think I knew somebody named Patricia.
Her full name is...
Patricia Jane. She's named after Aunt Jane Lord, the old lady that lived up down to the corner and up the hill from where we lived. An old maid and her brother lived up there. And they had their own elderly ways.
They weren't people that we were related to.
No.
Just...
No, their name was Sam and Jane Lord.
Was she someone you admired or was just good friends with? Or?
Just somebody I knew. I don't know why I named her Jane. Not particularly after that lady. I don't know. I can't remember.
Do you remember what your proudest moment as a parent of a young child would have been?
Yeah, when she started the school. We paraded her around. All of them at school.
Did she have more clothes than you did as a child?
Yeah.
since you were living in the city and I guess making better money than
Lloyd was
farm
working at
wages?
the coal mine at that time,
Oh,
When I first
yeah.
was going to school. Oh, crap.
so she had more clothes.
Well, what did the three of you enjoy doing together?
Eating's all I can think of.
We worked a
Well,
lot of jigsaw.
did you go on vacations together?
Yeah, but not till he'd worked on the railroad for what, a year. We decided that we had enough money. We went to Myrtle Beach
That was
on
that was
the
a
east coast, and then we went to Spokane.
That was the first vacation to Spokane.
That's where my aunt lived, Spokane, Washington.
When you drove, you didn't fly.
We took the train.
Oh, you took the train.
We had passes on the train.
Thanks.
Have you ever flown? Would you fly? Not even if you had a free ticket to anywhere you wanted to go in the world, you wouldn't fly.
No, I do not like to fly. I'm a coward, let's face it.
A smart aleck coward? That's not a good way to describe yourself. If you could have had any profession that you'd ever wanted, what would it have been?
Oh, dang, I didn't even get it past the phone.
Uh,
Let's do it.
I don't. No, I have no idea.
What kind of things did you do for jobs?
For what?
Did you have jobs as a younger adult, or were you mostly just a housewife and mother?
Just a housewife and mother. I worked in a grocery store at Altamont for old. Who was that idiot? I can't think of his name. He was a little pushy, and I didn't stay there
Okay, I'm jumping around a little bit again. Did you spoil your child?
long. I don't think I did. Her grandparents pretty easy on her. Her grandfather Clark and Grandma Dora. Grandma Dora had a handkerchief box that she kept her handkerchiefs in. She washed those handkerchiefs. She ironed them and folded them just so, and put them in this little box. And I go in up there one day. Pat had gone. I'd gone somewhere and left Pat there. And I go in and there, she's got the handkerchief box down, unfolding Grandma's handkerchief. What are you doing? Grandma said I could.
So were you a strict parent then?
I don't think we were terribly strict.
But yeah, I was made to mind.
Did you believe in corporal punishment? Were there paddlings when necessary?
Yeah.
With
Usually my hand.
never a switch or anything like that? Not normally.
No, by the time I would find a switch, I'd be over being disgusted with her and it'd be useless.
All right. I want to ask a few questions about children and, well, actually grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. First of all, how many of them do you think you could name?
Oh, practically all of them.
You want to try?
Okay, start out with Kathy, and David, and Kenny, and Matt.
And those are your grandchildren.
Yeah, is that all of them?
Clark was the other one.
And
Clark,
Clark.
I couldn't remember Clark.
Who
And
passed
then,
away in 1978?
1979.
79.
January 18th, 1979.
Okay.
January 17th, 1979.
All right, next level.
There's Kathy's kids, there's David, and
No, Kathy's
Shane.
kids are.
Kathy's kids are
Shane and Amy.
Shane and Amy.
Featuring song.
Featuring song. David's kids are little Dave and Crystal.
And then Kenny's.
Kids.
Kenny's kids are Liz and Colt and oh come on, Crystal. Caitlin.
Caitlin.
Couldn't think
And Elizabeth was named after you. Her middle name's Pauline, also.
Aw.
Yeah, she's Elizabeth Buckley.
And then my one kid,
Cody.
Dude.
You didn't name him. Matt's kid.
Jeff named Cody.
Got Cody. There he sits right over there.
And then how many great grandchildren?
Amy has.
And he has two,
Alexis.
Alexis and Perry.
Shane.
Shane has
One.
one, and what is her name? Ah, I can't think. What?
Julia.
Julia.
And then Crystal is the only
Got
other.
Kate and
And that's it, right? That's more than I can remember most of the time, too. And of course, you can't have a favorite when you have that many, right?
nope. They're all favorites. Isn't it funny? They are. I can't say that I.
Especially.
Each one of them does something real cute. Every once in a while.
Here's a few more questions just about you that I want to ask. How tall are you, and how tall have you been?
5 foot. Not 5 foot.
What color was your hair as a young child and then as an adult?
Dark brown. Like it is now.
What color are your eyes?
Blue.
What do you do for exercise?
Nothing. Walk. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Do you have any bad habits, or have you ever had any bad?
I used
Habits.
to smoke. And I don't think
Not you videotaping her.
anything else is a bad habit.
Just smoking?
Overeating, probably.
Have you ever been victim of a crime?
No, I would think so.
Have you ever committed a crime?
No, I don't think so.
You ever gotten a ticket?
No.
Oh, we don't need any fibbing.
Not until she was. How old were you when you got that ticket?
I don't know.
About 75?
75 or 80. I think she was already over 80.
Yeah, it was at least 75 though. Have you ever been in a car accident?
My mom has.
I think so, haven't
What?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Not that I know of, she hasn't been.
Has anyone ever saved your life, or have you ever saved anyone else's life?
No.
Just her dad trying to when he jumped in the well after her.
All right. But she wasn't there.
But she wasn't there. She was off chasing the dog.
I'll chase some rabbits.
Have you ever been hospitalized?
Oh, yes. Gallbladder operation.
Cataract.
Cataracts.
Have you? So you've had surgery
Yeah.
for cataracts and for gallbladder.
That was all.
Okay. If you could change something about yourself, what would it be?
I'd be a little taller.
That would have helped in basketball, I guess. Have you ever had an experience that you would consider to be psychic or supernatural?
I don't think so. No.
Do you remember your dreams? And if so, what do you dream about?
Pretty solid dream. And I don't know what. I can't remember anything I've dreamed
Do you believe in an afterlife?
Sure, why not?
What is the most stressful thing that you've ever lived through? And what helped you get through it?
Probably my mother's death. That was pretty rough.
And did somebody help you get through it mostly, or was it just on your own? Or
Well, family. Of course, I was married then. Though I was pretty good.
what is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh. What was it? I don't know. We had an old horse out of road, old days. They just put a bridle on her and rode her with a blanket. And she lost me one day. I lost her. That kind of scared me at the time, but
Did you ever play musical instruments?
I took piano lessons. We didn't have any piano to practice on. I practiced on an organ. I didn't learn much, let's say.
Would you consider yourself a creative person?
Not really.
How would you describe your sense of humor?
I laugh at him. Couldn't do anything.
You said smart aleck earlier, that you're smart aleck a lot. Do you think your sense of humor is kind of sarcastic or ironic?
It's sarcastic sometimes.
Have you ever played any practical jokes on anyone?
Oh, probably, but I can't think of
Nothing in particular.
anything right now.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you? You remember that? Anything in particular?
Oh, there surely is something.
What about when you lost your underpants that time?
In those days, there was no elastic. You had a button on your underpants. My button came off. Walking down the street, feeling pants are coming down. I reached down and grabbed my.
This is in the middle of the town?
This was in the restaurant parking lot.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's pretty embarrassing. Have you ever met anybody famous?
Oh yeah, you got me famous.
I've seen Truman once.
Yeah, I've seen Harry Truman, but I don't know if I met him.
Yeah, that's. He was there near where you lived for quite a while.
He lived in Denver.
And we lived in Kansas City next door.
Describe a time and a place when you remember feeling truly at peace and happy to be alive.
Oh, there's a lot of times that
What was maybe one of just your most content places to be? What's one of your favorite places to be?
with families, is that all I know? I don't really have any special place to go to.
She used to love to go to the mountains, and I always wanted to go to the seashore.
Yeah, I like the mountains better than the seashore. We made 2 trips to Myrtle Beach, East Coast. We made 3 or 4 trips to Spokane. We went on the train to California. But that's not much fun. You get off the train, got a car, and ride streetcars and you don't see nothing.
Well, out of those places, then what do you think was maybe the most beautiful place that you visited?
Probably Spokane, Washington. Although Myrtle Beach on the East Coast was pretty place.
We went to Denver one year. She really enjoyed that. We rented a car there. Drove to the top of Pikes Peak.
Yes.
Were you famous for cooking anything in your family, or any sort of dessert or anything like that in particular?
I don't think so. Used to make fudge a lot. That was my favorite candy.
I think just she always was a good cook,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just ordinary stuff, meatloaf. And
I remember your strawberry shortcake was always a big thing.
yeah,
You always grew strawberries, and strawberry shortcake was always really good.
It was good.
I remember you as a good cook, so I just didn't know if you thought you were or not.
I was an adequate cook, let's put it that way.
All right, well, you've answered an awful lot of questions. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Oh, which one, Julie? Oh. What was your favorite kind of music? As a young adult, or even now?
I'm not musical at all. And I
Okay, what about your favorite flavor of ice cream?
chocolate.
For sure. Favorite board game?
For
Favorite board game?
I like checkers. I don't know what his favorite. I guess it probably is.
Favorite color? I'm gonna ask a few of these.
Blue.
Favorite sport?
Basketball. That's what I played. I played baseball too.
Favorite athlete?
Larry Bird.
Favorite fruit?
Ooh, bananas.
Vegetable?
Peas.
Candy?
Chocolates.
Drink?
Pepsi.
What's your favorite TV program of all time?
I used to watch the Art Linkletter show an awful lot. You know,
she met Art Linkletter once.
Yeah.
oh yes.
I was surprised you
Was
didn't
it
say
Art
MASH.
Linkletter
I always
or Bob?
remembered you watching MASH.
Art Linkletter, he came to Kansas City and I shook his hand.
She was on his show.
I was on his show. I talked to him over the TV. And nobody heard me but Mrs. Fulton. And I was so mad.
Who was Mrs. Fulton?
Lived up there by Blacks on the road
Okay.
where folks live.
How about your favorite time of year or season?
Probably the summer. I'm not too much on cold weather.
Favorite flower?
Rose.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas. Birthday. Yay.
Did you ever have a favorite movie star?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh,
Alan
Alan Ladd, that's who it was.
Alan Ladd, huh?
You know how I knew?
Who's Alan Ladd?
I can't tell you what he played, but I used to collect movie star pictures, and when I sent off for movie star pictures, she had me had him send too.
And then later she really liked Alan Alda, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of funny that their names are
Yeah.
almost the same. Okay, we're gonna go for the last question then. Is there anything you've always wanted to do but haven't gotten to yet?
I really don't think so. I think I've done about everything that I wanted to do. Might not have been a good idea, some of the things I did.
I guess to go along with that, what's the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
I was honest. I think that's more.
Wait a minute, don't do that. Do you consider yourself a religious person?
No, not really. But I do believe in God. And I don't go to church all that much, but I still have to believe. And I try not to steal.
Try not to. Are there things we don't know about?
Oh dear.
All right, good. Yeah, we're done for the recording part.
You already about all your exploits as a child and all the fun you had as a child and when you played basketball and some of the other things. And we talked about when you and Grandpa met, didn't we?
I think so,
Think
probably.
so? Okay.
His dad owned a thrasher machine that came and thrashed the oats and wheat that we had.
Now, did you live on a farm?
Yeah, always farmers.
Now, was it a pretty big farm or a...
We farmed Granddad Coel's. This is good. Granddad Coel's farm till Woodrow and one of the other boys, Tom maybe, decided that we had it too good and they talked Granddad into putting us out. So my dad bought 40 acres off of the rear of Granddad's farm and we built a 2-room house and lived there. I'm trying to remember if we still lived there when I met Lloyd. I believe we had moved up in the old Klein house when Lloyd and his dad was doing thrashing machine work. And that's how I met him.
So Grandpa was working with his father,
Yeah.
and his father was H.O., is that right?
Mm-hmm. H.O. Clark, yeah. And he had a brother Edson and a sister Ruth.
Now, did Edson work with him on the thrashing machine?
I guess so. At the first he had it. Of course, Lloyd wasn't just. Well, I was going to tell you his age. But I graduated from high school. Lloyd was a couple of years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
I snared a young guy. And we met when his dad came to do the thrashing. And then I don't think we dated any. Well, it couldn't have been too long that he asked for a date and we went with his cousin Bill Carone and his girlfriend to a show, I think is all we done.
Now, were there a lot of young men in the area, or did you date?
No.
Did you date a lot of young men when you were young?
No. We lived in the country and there was nobody, neighbors. Cecil Black was the youngest, one of the younger ones, and then there was some Olsen boys, but they were all 3 to 4, 5 years older than I was. So we grew up pretty much just seeing the cousins and you know, how families get together.
Well, you have a sister and a brother when you were younger,
Yeah.
and your father lived to be a pretty good age.
Yeah.
And what about your mother? What was her name?
Frona. Sophronia, but they called her Frona. Caldwell was her last name.
Now, what did she look like?
She was dark hair like mine and my complexion, just, she wasn't heavy.
Did she have a temper?
Not too much. I can't remember her ever getting too mad at. But she let you know that you were supposed to be doing right.
Now, when you were growing up, was your grandma and grandpa living?
Yeah, but my grandpa and grandma Oak lived in Shalbina, and we seldom saw them. My grandmother Caldwell was already dead, and Granddad Cowell lived with us. We rented his farm, and he had a room in the house that he stayed in. Of course, he ate with us, but that was his private room.
How many rooms were in the farmhouse that you lived in?
Oh, there was a kitchen. Let's see, the kitchen's across the back of the house. And then you went in the door over there, and that went into a bedroom, and the door into this room came into the dining area. Living room area. We dined in the kitchen, a table set back up against this wall. My mother bought a new home comfort stove. Boy, that was a big deal when that home comfort cook stove got in.
Now, what was it fired with?
Wood.
Okay.
We just, not too many people had oil or gas burners of any kind that I remember of anyway.
And now your grandpa Caldwell, what was his first name?
Joseph
Joseph.
Minor Caldwell, and he has a cousin that was Caldwell, Joseph Caldwell Minor, and the cousin was Minor Caldwell Joseph.
Oh my. Now where did Minor come from? Was that another
That
family
was
name?
mother's grandparents' name.
Okay. So
But they
never
were
heard
gone
that name.
before I was born, I guess. I don't remember ever seeing any of them. But Granddad Cowell, we rented his farm and he lived with us still. Woodrow, the older brother, decided that my dad was making too much money off of Granddad's farm.
What years was that probably? Back in the 20s?
Yeah, I expect. I was in 7th or 8th grade
Mm-hmm.
when my dad bought 40 acres off of Granddad's
Mm-hmm.
farm. On the back of the farm, built a 2-room house. Have I told you that?
No.
We lived there, and I had to walk clear back up to the highway to catch a school bus.
How far would that have been probably?
I know it seemed like a devil of a long ways, but it couldn't have been a quarter of a mile.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now you went to school all the way through high school and graduated from high
yeah,
school.
we didn't have no graduation exercises, however. That was the year typhoid fever broke out. Half the high school had typhoid fever. And we lost one of the students that was in our class, George Taylor. He died from it. And his younger brother died from it. And that was sad because the father had died when the 3 kids were small. There's a daughter too. And she just got these guys up to where they could help her and lost both of them. And I always felt that was terrible.
Well, now Aunt Sylvia, she met Uncle Joe. Did she meet him on the farm the similar way, or how did she
Well,
meet him?
Jerry bought Grandma Spain's old house down there. You never been down where the
I had
2-room house was, down in the field, and Grandma Spain's house was up on this road.
Now, that's your grandmother?
No, we just called her Grandma Spain. She's Thelma Spain. Thelma's grandmother.
Okay,
So Thelma called her grandmother, and so I did too.
okay.
I can't remember what her first name was, isn't it?
Well, anyway,
Anyway, she's Grandma Spain.
see, Jerry, Joe's brother,
Yeah.
lived in that area.
Joe's brother married Thelma, and they lived on Thelma's grandmother's farm there for a while. And then, of course, Joe was up there, and that's where Sylvia met Joe.
Okay. So Grandpa worked on, well, let's talk about where you worked, all the places you've worked when you worked in the home first,
Yeah.
when you were newlyweds. Now, what was it like when you all were newlyweds? Did you all live on your own, or did you live with your parents, or were you?
No, we, let's see. For a while, we lived with my parents, and then my dad bought this little house down there on the highway. It was a 1-bedroom bungalow.
Mm-hmm.
And he and CW lived there, and then he bought the Klein place, and they lived up there in it. And Lloyd and I lived down on the highway.
Now, this is after your mother had already passed
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
About how old were you when your mother passed on?
Oh, I can't remember.
Were you kind of a kid or a young adult?
No, I was pretty well grown. I think I'd graduated from high school before she died, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
positive on that.
Now, when you and Grandpa got married, I know I'm jumping all around, but when you and Grandpa got married, did y'all go on any kind of honeymoon, or did y'all do anything
We
at
went
all?
to his sister's and tried to pretend we just came down to visit and that we weren't married or anything, but they got word of it. Somebody saw the ring box in the car,
Mhm.
and we got chivalried with all the banging and hooping and hollering.
So you went down there. Now,
That was Lloyd's
where did
sister
y'all get married? Did y'all get married at the Justice of Peace's
Yeah.
or
in this courthouse.
in the courthouse?
Mhm.
Now, why was it that you got married there rather than getting married in a church and that type of thing?
I don't know. I went to the Winston Church Sunday school,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we had a new minister in there.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, we didn't want to tell anybody we were getting married, and we thought we were getting by with it.
So you kind of eloped?
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of, or actually did.
We went and got married and then went on down to Lloyd's sister's. And of course, we had to tell her
Mhm.
we got married.
Now, what was her name again? I'm sorry.
Ruth.
Ruth, okay.
Ruth Eleanor Appleberry was her last name.
Okay, I remember the Appleberries.
Yeah,
Well then, so y'all got married and you went down there to
yeah,
visit, and then you stayed a couple days down there.
yeah. And then we came back and we farmed for a year or two, and then the coal mine opened up, and I guess Edson was working at Edson and Bert Jarrett, and they called Lloyd and told him, or saw him. We didn't have any telephone.
Mhm.
Folks had
Right,
none of that.
right.
Anyway, they got him on at the coal mine.
Now, when he worked at a coal mine like that, did he make very much money, or was it good money for the day, or
It was good money for the day.
what kind of
But
money did he make, kind of?
I can't remember at all. What
I just, yeah.
I mean, it was. I think they got paid by the amount of coal they loaded out. I
Oh,
believe
my.
is the way.
So it's
way
based
they
on
got
production.
paid. Yeah.
Okay, well then,
And he insisted, and I went down 100 feet in the ground, and I didn't like that a bit, but I went.
mhm.
I was going to get drugged, one of the two.
Now, and Grandpa was, pretty tall fella. He was about
Yeah,
6'2" or 6'3",
Yeah,
and you're real short. Now,
yeah.
was that a common thing for the day to have a tall man and a shorter woman, or did y'all feel odd at all about that?
No.
No.
Edson's brother was married Helen, and she's a little taller than I was,
Mhm.
but maybe an inch or so.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he was tall like Lloyd.
Now, Grandpa, when he was young, what color hair did he have?
Blonde,
He had blonde hair,
blonde curly hair.
blonde curly hair, and you had.
And he'd never give the kids any curly hair at all.
No.
Stick a fight with him.
Yeah, and then not much blonde hair in the family. We got
No.
Kathy and Caitlin. It's got a little bit of blonde hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Now your father, did he have
he was dark hair.
dark headed?
Mhm.
I remember your grandmother's picture or your mother's picture, Sophronia.
Yeah, she had dark hair too.
Okay.
Real dark. I guess probably as dark as mine.
Now then, you all lived on the farm for a couple years, and you farmed, and then what did you do after that?
Well, Lloyd went to work at the coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we still lived on the farm. And then he'd worked for the coal mine for, 2 or 3 years. And his cousin, Grant O'Connor, called and said UP was hiring men to come on down. So Lloyd went down, and I stayed home up there in Aldermont.
And this was about
Uh,
41 or 42?
Pat was first grade of school.
Okay, so 41 probably.
Could be, I can't remember.
Okay. But it was about when the war was starting, or just before the war had started, maybe right after the World War II started.
No, I didn't, World War II. Ah,
Can't place quite how that fits
no, I
together.
can't remember what that was.
Yeah.
But CW was, had to go to that.
Right, he was still at home at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, he's
And he, anyway, Grandpa went down to Kansas City, which was quite a few miles from where y'all lived, wasn't it?
oh yeah.
About how far would you say?
I expect 90 mile or so, maybe 100.
Now, how did he get to Kansas City? Did he just?
We had no Model T.
Okay.
He drove it down there.
So that was probably the first car y'all had,
Yeah,
and he got it from working in the coal mine,
he got it with money
made from the coal mine. And you'd worked at home all that time,
Yeah,
and y'all had a child.
yeah.
Now, that was during the 30s. Now, my generation hears about the Dust Bowls and how rough things were.
Yeah.
Do you ever felt like you were deprived during that time, or knew that it was that rough when you were growing up in that time?
No, we lived on a farm, and we had a big garden, and we canned vegetables, and we never went hungry at all. But when we moved to Kansas City, and one of Patty's best friends and her mother and I got acquainted because the kids went to school together, and she said they went hungry in that time. But we had, my mother canned vegetables and fruits and everything, and we had, I want to say 800 quarts of fruit, but I know it was a devil of a job of canning and the peeling and the paring. Never got so sick and tired of garden stuff in my whole life. But we had food.
Okay. Well, okay, so then Grandpa moved to Kansas City. You told me a story once about how y'all had a telephone, and not very many people had a telephone when you moved to Kansas City.
Yeah, yeah.
And who was it that didn't like it that you had a phone, or you had a phone but they didn't? It was one of your neighbors or something? Thought that everybody should have a phone, but
Yeah, I don't remember. The only thing I remember about Lloyd called the central office and had him come down to the house to get me to come to talk to him. I thought, that's pretty stupid. But I enjoyed talking to him. I mean, he went down there and left me at Aldermont. And then Grant, his cousin, who called him to come, he could get him on the railroad. We went out, they wanted to go on vacation. Now, they had 2 sons, both married with wives, but Elizabeth's mother was from the foreign country. She could not speak a word of English. She was just an elderly person who would just sat there and looked at you. But they wanted to go on vacation, and instead of calling their stinking kids, they called Lloyd to come down and stay with Grandma. So we went and took care of Grandma. And I'd say something to her, and she'd say, and just smile so nice. Didn't know what I was saying to her. I was trying to make her feel like that she could make motions, or she just smiled.
now that was Grant was your
Yeah,
Grandpa's
Lloyd's
cousin.
Cousin,
And what was his last name then?
O'Connor.
Grant O'Connor. Okay. So we may have a little bit of Irish in the family somewhere there.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And then Grandpa worked at the railroad, and then you were not working still at this time, other than at home.
At home, and he worked the railroad and was out of town. He worked the road. He wouldn't stay on a switch engine. CW worked,
Yeah.
CW worked a switch engine. He was home every night with his family.
Mm-hmm.
But that stinking Lloyd was out of town every other night. And I was sitting home alone with a kid.
Now, was the money any better to work out of town?
I think probably it was a little better. But it sure burned me up.
Yeah.
Gone all the time, and CW's there. Of course, if I needed anything, I could call CW and Jody, and they'd be right there to take care of whatever it was, but it was just the idea that you got to make the big wheels roll. I can I'm saying that on Pokey.
Now, the grandpa worked on the engine on the train. Now, he was a fireman at first.
Yeah.
Now, did he actually shovel the coal and talk
Yeah.
about that and,
Oh yeah, about 20
how hard
ton.
work it was?
About 20 ton of coal with a shovel between there and Maryville. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but
Now, Maryville was always the stopping point where he
yeah,
went to.
that was the end of the road, and then somebody else took it on from there.
Mm-hmm.
Maryville, Kansas.
Maryville, Kansas.
Yeah.
And they had a little place there that they could stay, a little hotel type thing.
And I was just an old lady and her husband rented out rooms to them.
Okay.
And Lloyd was going to be up there for 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, I guess. Anyway, he caught that job on his turn, and so I was going to go with him. And he took me down by the house where they stayed, and the old lady said, "You can't keep her here." I said, "I ain't going to keep her here." So I just came by to show her where we stayed.
Mm-hmm.
But the old lady lost $2.50 a night there, and she was a little disgusted with me coming up there and taking her $2.50. I know I was that old lady.
So $250 was a lot of money though for
Oh yeah. that's
somebody to
pretty
make
good
out of their house
pay.
by
Yeah.
just making the bed and changing the sheets,
Mhm.
maybe not even changing the sheets.
Yeah, that's what Lloyd thought. So he gets his pencil and marks the sheet. Of course, I don't think the washing probably took the mark off. I never did hear any more about that, but he was marking the sheets because he thought he was sleeping on somebody else's sheets.
Oh goodness sakes. Well, so did he stay? Now then, later years, like when he worked in the 40s, some, and then he worked in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Did he still stay at the same place, or did he go to a different place a lot?
No, their trip was to Marysville,
Right.
and they had a switch engine at Topeka, and he caught that quite often. That's where I went with him to
And
stay.
there's a bed on the engine where he could still sleep on the way back, or what?
No. The engine, you just stayed up there till that train come back.
But I mean, but like in the 70s and 60s when he worked on the railroad, still did he still stay at that same house
Mhm.
when he went?
Yeah.
I bet it wasn't $250 yet in the 70s then. Price had probably gone up, hadn't it?
Well, I don't think they ever had to pay any more than $250.
Huh. Well, ain't
I
that
don't
something?
remember that they did.
Yeah. So anyway, then he worked on the railroad for all those years, and then you worked at
Montgomery Ward.
Montgomery Ward's, and when you started there in the Christmas season one year.
Yeah. He was on the road all the time and gone all the time, and I just got tired of sitting home. Pat was gone, married. So I went out to work and got a job, and oh, he was mad.
Oh, you did this without him knowing it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
When I get home, I want home cooked meals. I have to eat restaurant all the time I'm away from home. And he never would take me out to eat because he had to eat at restaurants. He hated restaurants. So I cooked home, and I finally, he told me I had to quit for it, so I quit.
So you didn't work there too long then?
No.
And then didn't you work after that some? A little bit?
No, Ward's was the only place I worked,
Okay.
I think.
Well, so okay, so Grandpa worked all those years. He worked 33 years for the railroad, right?
Mhm.
And he's a member of the United Teamsters Union, right?
Yeah.
Or not United Transportation Union. One of the two.
UTU is all I know.
UTU is what it was called.
Transportation, probably.
Yeah, I think it was part of the Teamsters.
Yeah.
Because I can remember back when I was a kid him talking about Jimmy Hoffa a little bit
Yeah.
and how he thought he wasn't a very straight person.
Yeah.
And then when y'all got, let's see, in about 1975 he retired. And how old was he when he retired? Was it 69 or 61 or 60 or 61?
I can't remember. He was born in 1913.
Right, so it was 75, so it had been 61, and then he turned 62 that September.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's 61 when he retired,
Yeah,
and you moved to little old Perry,
yeah, built a new house.
and you lived in a trailer for a little while that
Mm-hmm.
you got from Uncle Perry's,
Yeah,
or your Uncle Perry. Now he lived in Shelbina, right?
yeah.
Now he lived out on the old farm for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been your grandparents' farm.
I don't think so. Uncle Perry and Aunt Annie had their own farm.
Okay.
And Granddad and Grandma's,
So Perry was married at one time?
yeah, Perry-
What was his wife's name?
Annie, Aunt Annie.
Annie, okay.
And they had a son, oh Lord, Cecil was their son.
Annie Oak and Cecil Oak.
Mm-hmm.
And what, do you remember her maiden name by chance?
Gaines, I believe. Was
Annie Gaines.
Mhm.
Okay. And they lived not too far from where we used to go hunting when I was younger.
Well, they lived at Shelbina.
Right, well, he lived in Shelbina after I started hunting there. And Uncle Perry lived to be about 96 or 97.
Oh,
was it older than that?
I can't remember. No, I don't think it was any older than
I think it was
that.
96 or 97.
I think so.
And let's see. But when y'all moved to Perry, you had eye surgery,
Yeah. Cataracts.
cataracts. That's right. And Dr. Smith did your surgery in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And when they took your cataracts off, it took about 2 weeks to recover. You had to wear a patch over your eye for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Then had to go back.
I knew I can have the other eye done.
Had to have the other eye done after that. And when you came home the second time, y'all had started working on your house and had the basement done
Yeah.
and had to move into the basement
Yeah.
because something to do with the city.
I can't remember what it was.
I think they were upset about having a trailer up there because of zoning laws,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
Probably.
Anyway, then you had to move into your house, which was the basement part of the house.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa finished the top part of the house.
Yeah.
And then y'all were able to move in up to the top part, and that was probably in 76.
Yeah,
About?
75 or 76.
It seemed like quite a little while that you lived in the trailer when we were living through it, but I
Yeah.
don't think you really lived in it that long. I can't remember exactly.
No, I don't think so either. Because, didn't he finally hire somebody to come in and help with that house?
I think so.
Seems to me that he did.
I
He
think
wanted
so.
to build it all by himself, but
Mhm.
it would just take him too darn long.
Yeah. And I can remember Grandpa talking about it. I think he said that he spent about $20,000 building it.
Yeah, about that, I think.
And from when he built it, he lived in it about a year and a half. Is that about right, Grandma? And then he passed on, as in 77,
77.
February 12th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can't remember just how long they did live there before he died.
Well, anyway, it all runs, it's hard to remember dates and everything.
Yeah.
But we had a big garden one year, I can remember that.
Yeah, he had a big garden every year when he lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had frozen foods and,
Had potatoes and new peas,
yeah.
and wilted lettuce.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I'd like to get is the recipe for wilted lettuce. I've tried to tell friends how to cook it, and nowadays you can only find it in the really expensive restaurants as wilted lettuce. Now, kind of tell us how you'd cook the wilted lettuce.
Well, you just washed your lettuce and made it up in small pieces, and then put your water, and you put vinegar, salt, in a skillet, and got it hot, and
Mhm.
poured it over the lettuce, and just stirred it as you poured the stuff over it.
And you put bacon in it,
Yeah,
some bacon grease, and some bacon.
yeah,
And you'd stir that until it got wilted a little
Yeah.
bit.
yeah, it wilted pretty quick, you just
Mhm.
didn't have to stir it too much because you're greasing and vinegar and stuff was so hot.
Mm-hmm.
But we were always glad to get that wilted lettuce because there was very, very small amount of fresh vegetables. Well, potatoes you had all the time, of course.
Mhm.
But I mean the lettuce and things that made your dinner nice.
The fresh green vegetables.
Yeah.
I remember when we had early peas,
Yeah.
that was always a big treat.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing was trying to get a tomato that was red before, what date?
I don't know.
I think it was 4th of July is what I remember. We used to always try to get a red tomato before 4th of July.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
And then what would we have when we had that first tomato?
Wilted lettuce, I guess.
And what else? Bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh,
Every time we'd have a bacon and tomato sandwich. Sometimes we wouldn't have lettuce on, but we'd have a bacon and tomato sandwich.
Yep, that's still my favorite sandwich.
Hmm. Well, how would you describe Grandpa's personality?
Grandpa Oak?
No, my grandpa, Lloyd's. How would you describe
Oh.
Lloyd's personality?
He was very calm and collected. But when he got mad, he was mad.
Hmm.
And he very seldom got mad. What the heck was it he was working on and something went wrong and he throwed the wrench down and son of a bitch.
Yeah.
That was the maddest I seen, but I can't, there's something he was working on.
Hmm.
He stayed pretty calm. It was me that flew off the handle quite a bit.
Well, now, do you ever remember him getting mad at the kids? At David and Clark and me and Matt?
No, I don't remember that he did.
I don't
I
ever
think,
remember him doing that either.
He could be pretty disgusted and I guess sort of halfway mad and still act very calm and settle things his way.
Mhm.
And I can do that. I got mad, I was mad.
Now, was he a forceful person and kind of, had to have his way, or what kind of personality? was
He was pretty much to have his own way.
Yeah.
Like, he went in the coal mine every day, and I hated the coal mine. But I went down that coal mine one Sunday. He just deliberately took me out there and practically carried me on the cart to go down the hole.
He wanted you to know what it was like.
Yeah. Oh,
Now,
yeah.
he was always the man of the house. You never did have to guess who wore the pants in the family, did you?
No, he was always. If I put up enough fuss, why he just.
He would do what you wanted to
Yeah,
do, but
yeah.
he always tried to please you, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah. He never did anything to upset me.
And one of the things whenever I was a kid and I always watched y'all together, I would always see you. He'd never leave the house without giving you a goodbye kiss.
No, he never did. Never did.
And that was one of the things, it's a good way to model your marriage after. You can't be too mad when you're kissing somebody.
Yeah, that's right. Dear.
But, and y'all had, what kind of pets did y'all ever have? I remember your dog Lucky, of course.
Yeah, Lucky. I don't think we had a cat. What was the cat's name? It was a black cat with just a little white spot on his throat. I don't know.
Now, you had a cat named Sam.
Well, maybe that's the one I'm thinking about.
The
Sam.
cat that was so big.
Yeah,
And then we had Lucky, who, he lived a long time.
Yeah, he was.
He was pretty lucky.
Yeah, he didn't know how lucky, did he? Oh dear. He slept with us,
Mhm.
foot of the bed. I don't think he ever got out. He probably got under the covers in wintertime.
Mhm.
Who'd ever think I'd sleep with a dog?
Well, now, did y'all argue very much when y'all were younger, or what was it like?
Lloyd wouldn't argue. I don't ever remember him really being too mad at me. I guess when he got mad enough, he just got up and walked out, probably is what happened. 'cause he had a temper, no question about that.
Now y'all had a bird at one time when you get back to talking about
Yeah.
pets.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name of the bird.
Oh, I don't know, that little old parrot.
And the parrot could say some dirty words, though, if I remember right.
I think so. The son of a bitch, I think, was the biggest one he could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wasn't a parrot, he was a parakeet, wasn't he?
A parakeet, yeah, that's right. Parrot would be a big bird.
Yeah, a parrot's a big bird, that's just how
Now, would you say that Grandpa loved his job?
yes, he loved his job.
Now,
Gotta make the big wheels roll.
every time we went on vacation, what did we have to keep Grandpa from doing?
Riding the train.
From riding the train or from looking at the trains whenever they went by.
Yes, that's right.
I can remember that. Now, y'all talked a little bit about going to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did y'all go to Florida when y'all went that vacation?
I think we went in the car when we went to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We had a vacation every year.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Florida and we went to Spokane, Washington, 2 different years. We went one year on the train, and Aunt Leona and Henry didn't have any car, so she rented a car, and neither one of them drove. And boy, they took a week off, and we drove them wherever they wanted to go. We had a ball. And the next time we went out, my dad and his second wife, Beulah,
Mm-hmm.
they both took time off, took a full week off. And we went again to where she wanted to go. Of course, that's what we liked
Mhm.
about, that was the best vacation we ever had.
Well, now, when you moved from the farm and Grandpa worked in the coal mine, and he made pretty fair money because y'all had a car.
Yeah,
You never had a need for anything.
no.
But then he came to the city and worked on the train. And that was really a good job, a plum of a job for money-wise.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
did y'all feel like y'all were kind of moved from the poorer class up into, just felt like y'all were kind of rich, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. We had a lot more money when he started working on the railroad. But he saved money too. He wasn't, he would buy what I needed, and what I wanted sometimes didn't go.
Mhm. Did you ever remember anything they just said, flat said no, he wasn't going to buy?
No, not offhand.
No.
But I was, I'd been brought up on a farm, and money was something that you didn't waste.
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably that he was willing to spend more than what I thought he'd ought to.
Now, when Grandpa was growing up, where did he grow up? On a farm also?
His dad had a thrashing machine,
Mm-hmm.
but that was in later years. He was born in Illinois, and his mother died when he was, I guess he must not have been over 10, 11 years old maybe when his mother died. And his dad raised he surely had help with these 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ruth got married, and Lloyd Lloyd stayed with him for a while. And then Lloyd's dad married Grandma Dora, and they lived there in Altamont. And Grandma Dora was an old maid, and she was very prim and proper, and she had a nice box of handkerchiefs. And she said she'd babysit, and we went to St. Joe, and I come back, there was Kathy with that box of handkerchiefs out in the middle of the floor. What are you doing with them? Gave them to her. She's just unfolding them and folding them back. That box of handkerchiefs, anybody else in town had touched it, Grandma Dora would have been on her ear. And there she was letting Pat fold them. I'll never forget that. I just couldn't believe.
Now, let's see, you said that he lived in Illinois. Now, how far did Grandpa go in school?
Oh, he was, I don't know, he 10th or 11th grade. I don't think he ever graduated. I think he got into high school,
Mm-hmm.
and then his mother died. No, his mother died before he got to high school.
Okay.
I don't think he graduated, I don't believe.
But then when he worked for the railroad, he had to tell them that he did graduate. Is that right?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
That's one of those things that it's
Yeah. They
funny
were-
to talk about, and now that it's over, but Grandpa never really talked about that much. But he always wanted us to all get our education, and
Yeah.
he always
Oh,
felt
yeah.
bad for it that we didn't sometimes.
Yeah, he thought that it was a necessity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's see, what other kind of things would you like to talk about?
I can't remember anything special.
Yeah.
We lived on a farm and we had chickens, so we had eggs. We grew a garden and we canned food. And we couldn't freeze it because we didn't have no freezer.
Well, now, I've never asked you, this is a very private question, you can tell me, quit asking questions if you don't want to answer this, but why did you only have one child?
Because Lloyd didn't want any more. Doc Wilson came to the house and delivered the baby, and Lloyd was right there sitting and threw it all. This will never happen again. It didn't.
Well, I never asked, I never had the courage to ask that, but I've always wondered why you only had, and then Mom's always, she just came in and she sat there and she said, I think she made the opposite resolution. I'm not going to have just one only child. I think that's what she told me once.
Probably.
Anyway.
But she had it pretty darn good. She got most everything she wanted, and
Well, now, a lot of the relatives thought that you were kind of spoiled, didn't they?
oh, I suppose so, because I was probably spoiled all right. I got pretty near everything I wanted. But on the other hand, I don't remember asking for a whole lot. We had Christmas, and everybody got a present. But I think one present was probably all we got.
Mm-hmm.
And then we exchanged presents at school, but that was just tiny little things that you.
Well, talk a little bit about the mutual respect that you and Grandpa, you and Lloyd had for each other. That's one of the things that impressed me with your relationship always, is that you'd never argue, but you'd always come back to, or if you did ever argue, it was a discussion more, and you would always make
Yeah.
up soon after. And it seemed like he would always bend to what you wanted, and you would bend to what he wanted. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know. We seemed to just like the same things, I guess. I don't ever remember arguing too much. Oh, I argued with him about it going out of town on the cotton picking railroad and being gone for 2 days. But he didn't pay attention to that. He just went ahead and went. And I just took it and liked it. And so I went out to Ward's and got a job, and he came home, and we had to eat out because I was working. I have to eat out on the other end of the road. I want some home-cooked meals.
Well, now, were you like a normal wife of today, and you said, well, I want to eat out every now and then? Did you do that?
I did that, but I didn't get too much because he ate out on the other end of the road. Why don't you go out when I'm out of town? Why don't you go eat when I'm out of town? Well, now, what fun is it to go to the restaurant by yourself and eat?
Well, did you have some friends that you were around and you kind of went out with?
No,
No?
we didn't.
You didn't chum
Yeah.
around with a lot of people from Kansas City, or very many at all?
Well, I was PTA,
Mm-hmm.
and I was room mother every year because every other mother in the room worked. So I got to buy all the kids a candy bar, all the holiday stuff,
Mhm.
take the treats, and the teacher would stand and smile. And I never took the teacher a treat at all. But you old lady, you buy your own treat.
Well, that wasn't very nice.
Well, I didn't think so either, but I was disgusted with having to. And anything that come up, Patty, my mother will do it, my mother will do it.
Well, I know where Caitlin gets that from now. Well, now,
Oh, Lord.
What was probably the most memorable thing about raising your daughter?
I don't know of anything that stands out except we had a lot of fun together, I thought. And I would have swore she was a perfect child, which I'm sure she probably wasn't. But,
Well, now, you had your brother live with you for a little while.
yeah, my brother.
Now,
And,
and did his wife live with you too at one time, ever?
no, CW and my dad was with him. When we went to Kansas City, we rented an apartment, and they come down to Kansas City to stay with us. And Mrs. Brown, she got so upset because we had two people in there. Miss Brown got upset about everything. Her son come and took a bath and left the bathroom in one hell of a mess. It was terrible. And she thought Lloyd had done it. And I told her that Lloyd wouldn't leave a bathroom looking like that for
now,
anything
when
in the world.
You say this was an apartment, but it was
was the
a
upstairs.
common bathroom facilities. Because there's only one bathtub in the place, and
Well, they had a private bathroom downstairs,
Mhm.
I think.
but the son would come upstairs and use the
Yeah.
bathroom. Now, was she renting out two apartments? One to y'all and one to somebody else?
No, there's just one apartment at that place.
I thought Mrs. Woodward lived in there. I thought Woodwards lived in there, in the back 2 rooms. And we had the front room, I thought. Marjorie Woodward, and I don't remember her dad and mother's name.
Huh?
It was a little boy too. What was his name?
I don't remember that.
Okay, then, but now CW came down and stayed with you there. Now then you moved to, what place did you move to then, after you lived in that apartment?
We bought a house over on
Jackson.
Jackson.
On Jackson Street?
Well, we moved into, we rented a house over there,
Come on over.
across from,
Well, we rented a house, on Jackson Street, we rented a house. And it was
Come
a
on over here.
five-room house. Amy's waiting on the car.
Oh, in the car?
Yeah.
Well, we need
Ah.
to take Grandma on up probably in a second.
All right, a minute. Anyway, we rented that house over on Jackson. We rented it from some people for $30 a month.
yeah.
And then after that, we bought that
Oh,
house
then
over on
CW
Monroe.
and Pop came downstairs and she stood out in the street and yelled, "You get them people out of there."
I didn't remember that part. But then we bought that house over on Monroe,
Yeah,
and then Jody and CW both lived with us.
yeah. And we
Put a sheet
partitioned the front room off with a sheet.
or a blanket or something.
Now, was that pretty common though for people to do that for family? Or were y'all pretty uncommon?
I don't know of anybody else that did let family move in with them, I don't
Mhm.
think.
Well, I don't know anybody in that neighborhood which did. Lamont's, she might have had her brother live with her for a while.
Oh, I don't.
But it was just him by himself, and they didn't partition off so that they had. See, Jody and CW made a kitchen out of the front room of the house, and the dining room front room was sort of like a big family room sort of thing. Had a big archway between the two, with 2 pillars on either side. And that's why we had to put the sheet up, because the doorway couldn't be shut. And then they used that bedroom for their bedroom, and then we had the kitchen and the dining room for our living room, and then a bedroom back there that I guess we all 3 slept in that bedroom back there at that time.
Oh, didn't you have a cot out in the living room?
Or maybe I did, out in that middle room.
Yeah.
So you talked about Mom being born, and I hate to jump around, but when Mom was born and Grandpa was right there, that was rather uncommon for the day and age that he be there, no? Or was that pretty
Everybody
common?
had babies at home at that time.
But the husband was right there, usually in there when he was being delivered also.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Joe was with Judy and Wayne and Mike, and then Darla and Steve were born in the hospital.
Okay. So the doctor, when he came, he didn't bring anybody with him to help. He came by himself, and then the husband got to help if he needed help.
Or another family member usually was there. Aunt Nanny came when I was born, didn't she?
Yeah.
Okay. So you weren't born in the hospital.
No.
We didn't have.
And Aunt Nanny was my grandmother's, no,
Grandpa Oak, his sister.
yeah, it was my grandfather's sister.
Okay.
But
And
my
then-
grandfather's sister married my grandmother's brother, and their names were Nanny and Jim Cowell. So that their son and mother were double cousins.
Well, are there any burning stories that you got to tell us? You want to tell everybody, and you know, we're recording this so that generations in the future can see what we were like. Because it'd been neat to have pictures of all of our previous people, like Grandpa Clark, more pictures and things where he talked about his family. Is there anything that you'd tell them as a future generations and say to Colton when he gets a little bit older, or to Elizabeth, or to any of the other kids, tips on life and things that you'd say, this is the way you should do things?
No, because everybody's different. I don't think I was like anybody that was before me. You have to live your own life. I don't think you
Okay,
can,
well, that's a good tip, I
I
think.
don't think you can pattern after.
Well, the only thing I think you can pattern after other people is to love people, love all people. And I don't mean romantic love. I mean care about what happens to all people.
Well, yeah. I agree with that. Care about them.
That's right. Sometimes caring about them means doing things that are tough to them too.
Well,
And
yeah.
I think that's one of the places where you don't see yourself as being strong, but I see you as being real strong. You're tough with people when you got to be tough with people, and you care about them in a tough way sometimes. And
Yeah, I guess.
you have with me. You always told me you were going to get that 2x4 out. But I've never seen the 2x4. And I'm still scared of it. Well, I think that probably we can wrap it up now. I don't know how long we've been going.
A while, but Perry's tired and needs to go home.
And I figure Grandma's probably getting tired too.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked more than I've talked for years.
Well, I'm sorry.